Hey guys, I know that a lot of you know I tend to be somewhat personal about or private about my personal life, um, but in light of this last week, I've sort of made a decision to kind of share some pretty powerful stuff going on in my life. A lot of you may have caught a national story last week about a Australian woman who was shot by a police officer in Minnesota. Um, that happens to be the woman that I live with when I'm in Minnesota, when I'm with my daughter. And um, that's powerful enough. And then currently, I'm in the room that I grew up in, and handling the last final things that we need to do to get my mom's estate and house cleaned up and cleared out. And I'm the last of my siblings to do the work in the house. And this weekend, I've been sort of looking at things and just realizing how much of all these things affect me and the importance of legacy and humanity. And what I wanted to do is just share with you the space and the place that I grew up in, because it has such significant relevance and why we are changing the name from CrossFit Los Angeles to Oak Park. And fundamentally, it's a soil that I grew up on. And fundamentally, it's a place of extraordinary inspiration for me in every single way that a human can be inspired by. So let's just start here in the room that my mom preserved since the 80s. And the things that I was influenced by. I was a martial artist growing up, so I started karate when I was 6, and who isn't influenced by Bruce Lee? So he was a constant source of inspiration. And of course, my mom couldn't take this down from the 70s, for God's sakes. So that poster's 40 years old. Star Wars, that was the thing that brought me into the philosophy of our internal conflict of light and darkness. And that is actually the reason why I started martial arts. And my mom always told a story about why I started martial arts. She said I looked in a phone book and said that I want to be like Luke Skywalker and fight the darkness. And that was a odd thing, I think, for a 6 or 7 year old to think. But having a daughter that's 7, sometimes 6 and 7 year olds say very interesting things. And then if we go over here, of course, what man or boy or human isn't inspired by Chuck fucking Norris? There's Chuck in my black belt subscription. I subscribed to that for about 12 or 13 years, as most of the martial artists did from them. I pulled out a couple things because I thought it was relevant. In elementary school, I was apparently the most athletic boy. And then by the time I got to junior high, I won all the fitness awards, whatever that means. In college, most of you know, I played soccer, and that's a shot that made the front page of the sports section one day. Right here, it was the late 90s. Eminem had dyed his hair, and that's what I look like as a middle distance runner. And of course, my big inspiration, my mom and my grandfather, but my mom's induction into the Swimming Hall of Fame. Hugely significant. So now we're going to cruise through the house, and I'm going to take you through the club. So again, everything's totally empty except for me. It's been a pretty traumatic weekend in that sense. But as we look, here's an old picture of our high school team. That team set a state record for consecutive shutouts, and we won the TOC championship, which was at the time basically the Northern California State Championship. 10 of our starters from that team went on to play collegiate soccer. I'm not sure if that's a record, but that is a special group of players that I got to play with, and all of us went on to go do things in college, which is pretty darn cool. coming down the stairs, and man, it's weird coming through this empty house. Right now, again, my mom was a pack rat. She saved a lot of stuff. This is kind of fun. She saved that. That was a random one from a local show that I did in the mid-2000s. This is a stand-up / sketch comedy show that I did in the early 2000s. Here's a wall of photos, and this one's a fun one of the day that Char and I got married at the Beverly Hills Courthouse. Right here we've got my black belt promotion, very, very significant. And then of course, if you are in the 80s, you have to take really cheesy photos if you're a martial artist. It's a very ridiculous thing. So they would come in every year and we'd do these kind of things. But Mr. Kane, oh wow, aren't I the badass? And of course, here's the plaque for my mom's induction into the Swimming Hall of Fame. Obviously very influential. Now we're gonna go outside. So this is Santa Rosa, California. And if you look, I would come out here every single day, and I had this big, amazing space to be physical. I would get kids from all over the neighborhood and all around the city to come and play football and soccer, and it's an amazing place to grow up. We got a cherry tree here that was once very prolific. And I'd spend many of my summers up there eating cherries until basically diarrhea. Now, the junior high where I got the physical fitness awards is right across the street, so that made for a very easy commute to school daily, and it allowed me to do lots of extracurricular stuff and spend a great majority of my time developing my soccer skills and martial arts. Most days I would get up before school and run. Even though we lived at a gym here, I'd run or bike to a local gym, come back, and then after school I'd go to wrestling practice or karate or soccer practice, and then we set up a little mini dojo in the garage of my mom's place with a speed bag and a heavy bag and all that kind of stuff. So if you look straight ahead, there's the very empty tennis courts, somewhat sad, frankly. Over in this direction, if you just kind of look, this would be the entrance to the club. So people would walk through. It's gated, it's trees, and then there was a swimming pool down there. There was a fitness room in the back. As you can see, the pool's somewhat empty, well, somewhat completely empty right now. I used to get in the water and tread water and do all these kind of crazy workouts that my mom would concoct for me, as she was an expert at concocting devilish workouts. So now the whole place expands, and you can see it's very wooded around here, such as Northern California, such as Sonoma County. And down in that area, there's tons of oak trees, and one of the reasons why the original owner called this place Oak Park. But we're going to transition into the driveway where people would come in and out. And if you just kind of look down the scope of this driveway, there's a deer running right there. You might be able to see it down the road. And every day we'd wake up to deers coming in and out of our property. Sometimes possums would get into our garbage and stuff, which made for a lot of fun. I spent hundreds of hours in this tree, climbing all over it, climbing up these branches as members would drive their cars through, sometimes dropping little things on the car like naughty boys would do. And this is it. This is the soil that I grew up on. And one of the reasons that I've been very inspired to call our gym Oak Park. Oaks, these trees have been historic, as I've mentioned, or as I mentioned during the Murph conversation where I announced that we're changing the name to Oak Park. Oak trees are places where people meet as tribes, as cultures, as families, and they get stronger. And this driveway is emblematic and symbolic of that. Now, living in LA, there's not quite that abundance of nature unless you're going to seek it and willing to do sometimes a 45-minute commute or 4-hour commute, or just go to Ojai for the weekend to stay in a bed and breakfast that is $700 a night and have a nice bottle of Chardonnay. Here's where all the deers like to run. They like to pass through. And the reason I'm walking you down this way is because I'm going to take you to the Oak Park sign. Now, originally, if you look over in this direction, there's a huge open field. And the vision that my mom and I had is that we were going to turn this place into basically a health, wellness, and fitness institute. And so we were going to convert this land into basically a workshop for people to experiment, and for high-level athletes and everyday athletes to train and just become better versions of themselves, which is, I suppose, the goal of every trainer and coach. But we're gonna run. You can see the sign, the Oak Park sign. It's very beat up. It's got some dead ivy surrounding the posts. But this was a sign that people would see for decades, and this is where I grew up. And this sign is going to eventually make it back down to the gym, and this sign is going to be emblematic of a place where people connect in really meaningful ways, an environment where we play, and the very ethos is growth. So that tradition I intend to carry on, not just because it sounds good, but because it's who I am and who our coaches are and who you guys are. There's a lot of people that aren't members yet. They're going to find a lot of strength and a lot of amazing things in the things that we haven't even created. And I really look forward to creating that and fostering that with you guys. I really, really appreciate all of you, and thank you for tuning in to this video. I hope that it makes sense. From a humanistic perspective, it's not a fucking sales pitch. It's who I am. And this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna connect, we're gonna play, and we're gonna grow. Love you guys.